A freshman student named Junting enrolls into Minsong University so he can be closer to his longtime crush and senior, but when he gets there, he gets into an entanglement with a former idol living in the apartment beneath his. The anime begins one evening in Junting's apartment. His friends came over to his place to hang out. After losing a game of arm wrestling to one of his buddies, Junting decides to go buy some more beer before they run out. He tells his friends and one of them asks him to get her some peanuts while he's at it, which he agrees to. Before leaving the apartment, Junting stops at the door like he's waiting for something. He wistfully looks over at one of the girls named Lai Xia while she's on her phone, but shyly looks away when she catches him staring at her. Eventually, he heads out a bit disappointed since he was hoping she'd want to tag along. However, his mood immediately brightens up when he hears her call his name. He turns around and she tells him she wants to get some ice cream. It turns out the stunner's name is Lai Xia, and she's also his neighbor. Not surprisingly, Junting has a crush on her even though she is a year older than him. He hasn't confessed his feelings to her, but as they both walk down the road holding hands, it's pretty obvious that they're attracted to each other. This is confirmed when Xia pulls him aside and pins him to the wall before leaning in for a kiss. It's the moment Junting has been waiting for. He doesn't look away from her and the two share a magical moment with a kiss. Afterward, Junting thinks back to his first day in college and how he never imagined he could find someone like Lai Xia. At least not at such a young age. The story shifts to Junting's first day as a freshman at Minsong University. While riding a bus back to school after the holidays, he receives a pleasant surprise in the form of a text. It turns out that his old friend named Zuzu, who also happens to be his longtime crush, is returning to school after dropping out a while back. She asks if they can meet up and he agrees, offering to buy her lunch. He realizes that his outfit isn't nice enough to meet his crush after such a long time, so he rushes home to get changed. As he runs home like a puppy that has just seen its owner, he remembers how Zhu was the reason he applied to Minsong University in the first place. He daydreams about how they could finally be together, but is quickly brought back to reality when he sees a strange girl standing in his gate. She's holding a lighter and just standing at the gate, so he assumes that she's just some weird girl waiting for someone else. However, after getting changed, he comes out to meet her standing in the same spot. He asks if they've met before, but she ignores him, so he walks away, while trying to figure out where he's seen her face before. That's when he realizes that she's Lai Xia, the lead singer of A Girl in Dream Suite, a band his friend, Goshu, was obsessed with. Junting remembers this because he was the one who comforted Goshu when she quit the band. She admits that she's Xia and suddenly begins walking toward him with a menacing look on her face. To most people, that's enough to make them take to their heels, but Junting curiously watches her. Xia then waves her lighter at his face like she's about to burn him, but then stops. Junting opens his eyes and threatens to call the cops on her, but Xia flips the tables on him, accusing him of being an obsessive fan that has been stalking her. He then apologizes, explaining that it's his best friend that's obsessed with her. Their conversation is interrupted by a text from Zhu, so Junting leaves and decides that he's going to stay away from Xia to avoid any more trouble. Later that evening, he meets up with Zhu at a diner where they catch up. Seeing how happy she is to see him again, Junting decides to make his move by asking if she has a boyfriend and suggesting that they hang out more at his place. Unfortunately, she doesn't seem to be on the same page as him because she assumes that he wants to hang out as just friends. Poor guy's gonna have a hard time leaving the friend zone. After dinner, Junting gives her his scarf because it's cold outside and tells her she can return it to him the following day. Clever move right there. Anyways, Junting returns home and once again, he's met by Xia, who's still standing outside the gate in the cold. Turns out she stood there all day just so she could be around to warn Junting not to tell anyone that they're neighbors. After threatening to beat him if he tells anyone her true identity, she collapses in the cold, so Junting calls the police, seeking medical attention for her. The next morning, Junting is woken up by a knock on the door and he's surprised to see Xia standing in his door, offering to share her breakfast with him. As you'd expect, he's suspicious of her sudden kindness towards him, so he slams the door and reminds himself that people aren't kind to him for no reason. At school, Junting finishes his first class and immediately texts Zhu so they can meet up. Unfortunately, she tells him that she didn't bring the scarf with her and also says they can't hang out because she's very busy. His friends see the text while looking over his shoulder and tease him for getting played by the girl. Of course, he ignores them, but in reality, it turns out that they're partially right because Zhu seems to be avoiding him for some reason. After school, Junting returns home, disappointed that he didn't see Zhu the whole day, but he's drawn out of his thoughts when he's greeted by Xia, who's proven to be a persistent stalker recently. He reminds himself once again that she can't be nice to him for no reason, so he ignores her again. The following day, the same thing happens and she begins stalking him so much that his housemate, Yuns, even noticed and thought she was his ex. The following day at school, Shia surprises Juntang along with everyone in his class when she comes looking for him. All the guys stare at the stunner dumbfounded, and even Juntang can't believe she'd go as far as tracking him down to school. Eventually, he pulls her out of the class and confronts her about her behavior. He assumes that she's infatuated with him and tells her he already likes someone else, but she just laughs at the notion, before explaining that she just wants to be his friend since she doesn't have any, especially since he proved he's a nice guy when he saved her life. Juntang agrees and they exchange numbers before walking out together, while practically everyone stares at them, probably because of how beautiful Shia is. Shia notices that he keeps thinking about someone else, so she teases him by suggesting she would fall in love with him. However, he quickly reminds himself that she's way out of his league and forces himself to think about Ju. He tells her he's going to the opening party, but she explains that she can't because she got suspended. Later that evening, Juntang goes to hang out with some of the guys, and a drunk older student asks if Shia is his girlfriend. When he confirms that she isn't, he tries to get in touch with her, but Juntang refuses to tell him anything since she already threatened him. Just then, Shia calls Juntang, and when the drunk guy sees it's her, he tries to grab the phone from him. Shia hears the struggle and hangs up. A while later, she appears in front of the bar with a beer bottle in hand to defend Juntang, and when the drunk guy refuses to let them be, she takes a swing at him. Thankfully, Juntang stops her before she can do anything they would all regret. He takes the bottle from her and takes a sip of the beer before encouraging the drunk guy to chug it down. Sure enough, he accepts the challenge to prove that he's still the best at chugging beer, but by the time he's done, Juntang and Shia are gone. The two escape and only stop running when they get to an alley. There, Juntang subtly scolds her for what she did because she could have gotten caught by the cops. Hearing this, she gets emotional and reveals that she doesn't like leaving her house because she feels that she would get into trouble whenever she does, which is why she doesn't have friends. Juntang isn't sure what exactly she means by the vague statement, but he comforts her and assures her that he's going to stay friends with her through tough times, especially because she's rich. She laughs at his joke, and they both stroll to other opening parties together. That's when Juntang realizes that Ju might be at one of the parties, so he searches all over the place till he finds her. The moment he sees her, he's unable to hide his joy because he finally gets to hang out with her after a week. Unfortunately, the moment is ruined when Zu recognizes Shia as a former member of Dream Suite. She blurts it out, causing the people around immediately notice her. They all begin talking about different rumors and scandals that made Shia leave the band. Shia gets upset and accuses Zu of deliberately revealing her identity so people would talk. Before Zu can explain, Shia storms out of the place in a huff. After she leaves, Ju and Juntang spend the rest of the evening together until 2 in the morning. At that time, there aren't any buses out and none of the cabs seem to mind them, so Zu begins calling all of her friends who live nearby so she can spend the night at their place. Unfortunately, none of them pick up and she decides to sleep in the administrator's office. Juntang reminds her that her parents would be mad if they found out. Our boy Juntang finally gets the golden opportunity for Zu to sleep over at his place, but he blows it. He takes her home but not to his place. Instead, they apologize to Shia and ask her to pose as one of Zu's friends harboring her for the night to her parents so they wouldn't skin her alive for sleeping out all night. Shia agrees, and afterward, she makes up with Zu. The two even seem to be getting along quite well, thanks to the alcohol. Eventually, Shia starts to feel hot, so she goes outside and Juntang joins her. She tells him how much she envies his long-lasting friendship with Zu and begins to sob when she remembers how all her friends abandoned her. Once again, Juntang comforts her, and as she embraces him, he starts to feel something for her. Could he be catching feelings? The next morning, Juntang wakes up to find out that Zu took the first bus home. He remembers seeing Shia's lighter and pack of cigarettes the previous night but didn't ask if it belonged to her. Shia suddenly gets rid of the cigarettes, which makes Juntang even more curious. He decides to check the internet for details of her past, but she interrupts him and he realizes what a shady move that would have been. He then rushes outside to clear his head and remind himself that they're only friends and that he shouldn't be falling in love with her. To be fair, she's making that quite difficult for him. It's been a month since Zu slept over at Shia's place and the two seem to be getting even closer. They both go see Juntang at his college and decide to hang out since the flowers have started blooming. They take photos together and Juntang takes the opportunity to have the boyfriend/girlfriend talk with Zu, but she cleverly evades the conversation. Afterward, Zu decides to call it a day so she can begin studying for the upcoming exams. Juntang suggests that they study together, but she declines the offer once again. Poor guy just wouldn't take a hint. After she leaves, Shia points out how much he likes Ju, and he finally admits it. She asks him if he knows why she declined his invitation to study together, and in that moment, a wave of harsh reality hits him. He begins to recall all the moments Ju subtly made it clear she wasn't interested in him. She had his scarf all along but didn't want to give it back since she didn't want to see him. She also blew him off whenever he wanted to hang out. The final straw and most heartbreaking was when someone asks if they were together, and she clearly stated that they weren't. After recalling all the signs, Junting finally accepts that she isn't into him, but admits that he can't stop loving her because she would always be his first love. Meanwhile, Zhu rides a train home and goes through the photos they took that afternoon. In one of the pictures, she sees herself and Junting looking like a couple, and guess what she does? She deletes it. That's all for today's recap. Hope you enjoyed it. Please like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to see the next part. Thanks for watching and see you next time.